On November 21st, 2022, former Wales soccer captain Laura McAllister had her bucket hat confiscated by security officers upon attempting to enter one of the stadiums hosting the Qatar World Cup. McAllister questioned what regulation she was violating and was not provided with an answer, only that she would not be allowed to watch the match if she kept the hat on. The only thing wrong with said hat was its crisscrossing rainbows. This wasn't just a stunning design choice. The hat itself was a piece of merch designed for the Rainbow Wall, the first LGBTQ+ support group for Welsh soccer teams. Such symbols had been given the thumbs up years before the World Cup, yet all of a sudden, official employees of FIFA were refusing entry to fans wearing rainbow/explicitly LGBTQ+. You know what? It's gay. We're saying it's gay. What exactly is the point of an acronym if it's longer than 3 letters? Anyway, fans are all of a sudden being blocked from watching some guys kick a ball around because they're wearing gay hats or shirts, something FIFA specifically said was a-okay in the past. Why? Before I answer your queer questions, allow me to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Sophia. I am the monster under your bed. I hold all the fears your minds hold, and today's fear is homophobia. I mean, have you seen Monster House? Specifically, homophobia in soccer, football, kickball, and net sport. I'm a big gay soccer fan, and as such, I am aware of when homophobia rears its stinky head on or off the field. It's much more common and pervasive than people think or want to admit, mainly because most people do the thing where they say, blah, 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 why are politics in my sports game, video game show, etc. Well, buddy pal, I'm about to tell you in a mid-length video essay. Why? Because I care. Because I'm an ally, a shining example of passion and the bare minimum. Also because I'm getting a grade on this. Hello, Professor. I know my last video was overtly political, something I never thought I would do, but guess what? I'm doing it again, and this time you can't complain about anime. I'll be discussing why queer movements and people shouldn't be purposely ignored or erased in soccer, then go over the history of homophobia in the sport, as well as various cultural motivators behind homophobia in soccer. You can skip ahead using the chapters feature because now I have 1K subscribers. Woo! This isn't the 1K special. I'm just procrastinating on the actual one because I have 3 hours of audio to comb through thanks to my dad, my papa. I'll finish this video off with a positive note because yes, homophobes stay ignorant and make a lot of impactful rules, but there are also changes being made. Not everyone believes soccer and kissing girls as girls should stay far apart, and also that those girls should die. However, those people do exist. What these people fail to realize, or stay ignorant of, is that sports are a microcosm of society, a sample size, if you will. Everything that happens in real life bleeds out onto the field. Olympic medalists Tommy Smith and John Carlos didn't just do the first Black Power salute to stand against oppression and racism against Black people in the US, they did it because they were 2 of those Black men. Before joining the Olympics, Smith was a track star for San Jose, breaking records left and right in a program literally called Speed City. It was so good. Yet he was saddled with more loans than he could pay off and consistently received less scholarship money than his white contemporaries. He was on the receiving end of institutionalized racism in an area most people like to think isn't racist or political. So you know what he did? He brought it on the field to show the world. Smith and Carlos weren't inserting their politics into sports. Sports are inherently political in that you can't just be a Black man sprinting for America in the 60s, the same way you can't just be a woman in STEM. STEM has historically been dominated by men, so you're an exception. How did you get there? Did you deserve it? What race are you? Are you a diversity hire? So on and so forth. You can't just be a female computer engineer, no matter how much people want to ignore such things. I'm one of those people, not gonna lie. I'd be so cool to just exist and not have history dragging me down. Not as a computer engineer, there's enough nerds out there. Also, let's just address the elephant in the room.
Would you rather Smith and Carlos didn't make a demonstration and let everyone keep thinking things were fine and dandy?
They caught a lot of flack for over-politicizing the Olympics, but you know what shouldn't be political? Human rights, equal pay, not starving. I say again,
would you rather they said nothing?
This is the essential concept of sports as a microcosm of society. We, as a society, have interpersonal issues and political conflicts. Those don't disappear when you're doing physical activities. If you still don't agree with me, think of it like this. You're Tommy Smith in the 60s. You're poor, Black, and extremely talented. You need running shoes to practice running because you like doing that for some reason. Unfortunately, the only shoes you have are hand-me-downs that are already 2 siblings old and beat up like the dickens. They're thin and not ergonomic in the slightest. As a result, your knees are taking greater impacts because of the many hours you spent sprinting, both practicing and officially, in these shoes. So you're more at risk for injuries that you may not be able to recover from or pay to recover from. If you had more money, you'd be fine. Unfortunately, you don't, because all the scholarship money from San Jose isn't going to you, the record breaker, but to white runners who are leagues behind you. You can't work a job to make money to buy new shoes because you're a student athlete with less free time than a lawyer with a newborn. Because of your race and social class, you're stuck training with subpar facilities with little pay. And when you run meets, guess what? You're going to be beating records in those same beat-up shoes. This example is completely made up in regards to Tommy Smith, by the way. I just thought it was a good example to get you to understand that people don't make sports about politics. The politics are baked into the sports. Like a screwed up little pie. Dude, I always wanted to stay out of politics. Who even am I right now? Like, Megan Rapinoe? Is that you? Are you giving me your lesbian haircut? Oh, Megan, I couldn't. How will people know I'm bisexual? My boyfriend? The new one? Yeah, that's a good point. Let me unnecessarily remind the audience of my sexuality anyway. Do you think anti-gay would be a better name for an evil drag queen or a fighter plane piloted solely by butch women? Okay, I'm starting. Soccer has always been played by the people of the rainbow. No, not gingers. They are the devil's spawn. They must go back to whence they came and bleach their roots, which is how people sound denying the fact that gay people like soccer too. And I'm not just saying more recent players that have come out, like Czech midfielder Jakub Ješko in 2023, Irish partners on and off the field, Katie McCabe and
Russia Littlejohn
in 2019, and half of the U.S. women's national team. This is an over-exaggeration, unfortunately. Multiple coaches have come out after retiring, like French coach
Olivier Rouillet,
German coach
Thomas Hitzelsperger,
Norwegian coach
Thomas Berling,
who actually said he retired from professional soccer in 2000 because homophobia was so rampant in the industry, and endless, normal, unprofessional queers that like soccer, like me. I played it for 8 years, and by gosh, it does not show. But if you want to go back farther, you run into a lack of information. First off, not many soccer players have come out. These examples I just gave are 6 people. And soccer is played with 11 people per team, so we can't even make the field. Second, many players are simply not going to admit their homosexuality. You know why? Because for every country that has a confirmed gay, capital C and G on their team, there are at least 3 with major homophobic incidents in the sport. They're also normally Hispanic/Latin countries, which is fun. And it is also where more soccer is played, so we can reasonably assume that it's kind of built into the culture around soccer. Actually, it's not even a reasonable assumption, it's true. There is a chant popular among Mexican soccer fans that is said whenever a goal kick is going to happen, or when they're doing bad and want to call the other team a homophobic slur. The Mexican Football Federation has been fined numerous times in the past by FIFA for this exact offense. And this has done exactly nothing. Because guess what? This isn't something from the faraway past I'm dragging back to the present with all the goodwill of expired yogurt. The US versus Mexico game in the semifinal for the CONCACAF Nations League last year was paused twice because there was so much slur-riddled chanting. Also, this chanting isn't happening from like 10 drunk guys in the stands that everyone hates. This is loud enough that it echoes around the stadium. They had to put up messages inside a stadium to tell people not to say homophobic slurs. Y'all are grown adults and you are receiving the same moderation 13-year-old boys had to receive on Xbox Live. Is it that hard? Genuinely. I bring this up because a core part of homophobia in soccer is the normalization and backlash to change, no matter how bad and old normal, quote unquote, is. In fact, when efforts were made in France in 2019 and CONCACAF in 2021 to bring down the homophobic slogans and chants during soccer matches, fans ramped up the homophobic stuff to protest. Let me reiterate, these are grown adults who, when told not to say words that are widely recognized to be extremely offensive to a marginalized group of people, they doubled down because they were told not to say those words. Don't even try to say, well, you just said queer people like sports. Who's to say they aren't the people in the stands using it in a reclaimed way? Because absolutely none of the people defending their chanting of slurs has said that. They say it's harmless and that people in the gay community say the words too, so what's the big deal? Now, how many white people have you heard say that about the N-word? Just let that bake in there. Marinate. It does not taste good. So why are people still doing this? Hasn't anyone ever told them that homophobia is bad, actually? Let's take a dip into the cultural motivators surrounding hating gay people for having fun and getting twice as much game as the haters do. I'm not gonna hold you. This section is going to be a bit tough, mainly because I'm going to have to grit my teeth and say, I understand why this is happening. I will understand, but by gosh, will it be frustrating? There's many reasons why people are homophobic or the culture that they are from is homophobic. For example, religion. A lot of religions have some sort of clause that says only men and women should have sex together so you can have kids and continue this religion. I think that's because there was a way bigger scarcity mindset back in the day when running water was a luxury. People never really think about that. There's never any deeper justification provided beyond if you have sex and there's no chance of pregnancy, that's wrong. Those are just the rules. What are you gonna do? Think you're smarter than God? And then the room gets quiet and you realize you're gonna have to fight against the literal centuries of dogma and human beings just to prove you like kissing absolutely no one, and that's okay because that's right, ace visibility, baby! Another reason people are homophobic is their gender and the expectations society has of those genders. When women are physically intimate in a platonic way, think cuddling while watching a movie, holding hands to get through a crowd, it's normal. In fact, people will probably think that they're close friends and be happy for them. Once guys do it, they're gay, because men are normally expected to be less touchy-feely in every possible way. That root issue of engaging in unmasculine behaviors influences men's interactions, how they're perceived by their peers and other genders. The same men internalize this belief and push it onto others, policing the behavior of the men closest to them and perpetuating a cycle of homophobia as a result of gender norms. Which sucks, because cuddling with the homies is on my hierarchy of needs. Men aren't the only victims/perpetrators of senseless gender-focused policing. Women face the same trials, only ping! For example, any woman who engages in a more stereotypically masculine hobby will immediately face accusations of lesbianism or being a pick-me. It's essentially the reverse concept of what I just explained with an added layer of contradiction. Women are told that masculine hobbies are not proper for them, or are ostracized from those circles. They proceed to carry that message on to other women and make them feel unfeminine or unworthy of such interests. I will say, I feel that there has been some progress in recent times regarding women's freedom to do whatever they please regardless of gender norms. There's so many women showing off their varied interests on TikTok. I don't have TikTok anymore, but from what I remember, there were a bunch of clips of women showing themselves knitting, modding games, gaming, even like doing crochet where they make giant garlic pillows that I really want. Nobody's making them to sell. However, there hasn't been as much of a movement to encourage men the same way. I don't know why that is. I have guesses, but this video is going to stay on track and factual and on the field. Another huge reason people are homophobic is culture. Culture is whatever a group of people all agree on and say is theirs. American culture exists, as does American Southern culture, as does Black American Southern culture in the US. A specific country or city can have its very own distinct taste of culture. The motivators of homophobia I discussed above are all a part of different cultures. For example, Europe and Latin America, or LATAM. As of right now, the biggest teams in soccer are mostly European and Latin American, since the sport is pretty ingrained in both cultures, which is quite interesting considering they're almost diametrically opposed when it comes to their respective beliefs on homosexuality. Why are they so different? We both kick ball, we both drink alcohol. I don't see the issue here. It's probably because LATAM is Catholic and Europe is more Christian. Yeah, there's a difference that I have yet to comprehend, but this is what the internet says, and I know that we had those holy wars for a reason. LATAM's case is interesting because, as previously stated, it is predominantly Catholic. Thank you, Spain. Catholics have changed their tune in recent years on homosexuality thanks to my goat, Francis. No more should we die, but gay people should practice chastity and singleness. In the words of my Catholic high school theology class, you can be gay, you just can't be gay. It's still a bit of a tenuous belief. But if the Pope says to do something, you do it. That's actually how Argentina won the World Cup against Mbappe in his domain expansion, the French Revolution. But culture is not just religion, nor is it going to be successfully molded by the statements of one person, no matter how important that person is. There's a huge macho culture in Latam, macho basically meaning hypermasculine, which, as I explained before, defines men that are not super mega masculine in every way gay, which in turn spurs homophobia in soccer. And soccer feeds culture, especially for Latam, and so the vicious cycle continues. So how did Europe break that cycle? Well, oddly enough, because of the separation of church and state. Western European countries, important distinction because Eastern Europe is quite homophobic, have a very clear space between the church and state, separating possible fundamentalist beliefs from leaking into politics and laws. In case you don't know, fundamentalism is the tendency to interpret a body of work, normally religious, very literally. This means that Ephesians chapter 5 verse 23 can only be interpreted as, "Wives, be submissive to your husbands as unto the Lord." I think that's verse 22 and 23, yeah. There is no room for interpretation, historical contexts, or the passage of time. When you do your best to eliminate such beliefs, you tend to have more progressive beliefs. Crazy how it works. It's also because huge leaps have been made to protect queer lives in countries such as Malta, Germany, England, and the like. Same-sex marriage has been legalized in quite a few countries, as well as various trans rights. And as previously established, the politics of a country leak into their sports, meaning a bunch of European soccer players make a point of publicly standing up for equal rights. In fact, when Qatar announced they would allow LGBTQ+ symbols to be displayed at its World Cup, several captains said they would wear One Love armbands to show support for the queers around the world. When Qatar changed its mind, players removed the armbands, not because teams weren't willing to pay the corresponding fines, because the punishment had been switched to yellow cards, a much steeper price. Their hand was forced, a hand that was willing to be raised in the air against injustice. So back to the beginning. Laura McAllister is slaying in her queer bucket hat and is told to take it off despite being told years ahead of time that it is quite alright to do. What possible reason could Qatar have provided to make this okay? Some officials said it was to maintain religious tolerance. Now, I understand that to some extent. For example, if you're a woman visiting Mecca, you must wear a hijab. No biggie, right? If you're a dude going to a Catholic church, you should take your hat off. Little head covering, no biggie. NBs get to do whatever they want apparently though. Love the gender binary. It's bad form to reject or publicly scorn the teachings of a religion when religion is one of the most important factors of a person's identity. In fact, that's offensive. However, there is a difference between putting a statue of the Buddha in a place of respect and repressing your sexuality to please a religion. You could argue that not displaying queer symbols is pretty reasonable, especially regarding the past examples of head coverings, but there is an underlying message to each one that gives it very different connotations. Look up the other two if you like. Let's focus on the no gay symbols one. Homosexuality is banned in Qatar. Point blank, it is not allowed. This is bad. It also means that the don't display rainbows rule cannot be taken at face value, as it is normally illegal to do such a thing. The thing is, again, just being gay. So religious tolerance is out of the question as a rational reason to not display a pride flag, due to it essentially meaning gay people shouldn't exist in the first place. Let's go to the second unofficial reason I found as to why the ban was revoked. Qataris may attack fans wearing/displaying queer symbols, so this is for safety reasons. Okay, pretty valid. Most of Qatar is Muslim. There's a bit in the Quran that says sodomy is a no-no, man shall not lie with man, and one fan at the 2022 World Cup that was wearing a rainbow pin was accosted by some dude on a train in Qatar for wearing said pin. Dude got pissed when the fan refused, and things got a little aggressive. So, this reasoning does hold water. But what about the Russian World Cup? I bet you forgot about the 2018 Russian World Cup, which is pretty forgettable. Russia allowed gay symbols to be shown at the World Cup. However, there is a law that says one cannot spread propaganda to minors, gay flags being included in the propaganda category, which is crazy coming from Russia. Anyway, fans did sneak in some flags and had some particularly genius fans wear different colored shirts to make a rainbow. Man, imagine having 6 friends. Wait, I definitely have more than 6 friends. I may be stupid. These people committed such actions with the knowledge that they could be tortured or jailed in a country famous for its brutality. They knew the consequences of their actions. To deprive them of the opportunity to express themselves with the added context of their expression normally being illegal is not an acceptable reason to deny them of it. We know the price of freedom because you consistently shove it in our faces, and we refuse to keep paying. So yes, change is happening. It's happening at a pace previous generations fought for in a field none of them prioritized. Yet 2 years ago, we were faced with a betrayal from a country that had promised to let us exist solely in a representative format for a month. Why? Because there are billions of people on Earth, and we're not all on the same page. And a lot of those people don't want to let queer people live, much less kick a ball around, and they are in some big old positions of power. There's not much anyone can do about that, unfortunately. However, staying quiet is the worst solution. In fact, several teams/players/fans stood up to Qatar's betrayal in 2022. If it wasn't for the German team's picture after their match, fans posting on social media, and the like, Qatar and FIFA would have been under the impression that their last-minute change was completely fine and dandy. Saudi Arabia is already being questioned for their handling of gay rights and symbols at the 2034 World Cup, which is a literal decade away. People are getting smart. They're catching on that all homophobic governments will do is be homophobic. Crazy, I know. There will be no changes unless people stand up to them, which is what people are doing. Back to soccer. I love the sport. I really do. It's full of life, and its fans are some of the most passionate and welcoming in the world. Gay, straight, or full of beer. It sucks that queer people are ostracized from a sport, something that should have nothing to do with homophobia. Yet it does. Every sport played involves people with beliefs and conflicts. So let us play. You don't want politics in your sports? That's fine. Let a gay man be a goalie without receiving slur-riddled abuse then. Right, I think I'm ready to turn this in now. I have been Sophia, the monster under your bed. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, say hi to a gay person, me, and watch a soccer match. Also me, but you'd only see highlights from like 8th grade. Bye!